Choo choo, Neil.
I was gonna do it. I just wasn't feeling it in the moment.
Oh man, the hasty train is here for the last night of Florida. We're back. We're here. It is Sunday, November 3rd. We are here to talk about the fifth and final night in Florida, St. Augustine, night 2. I also didn't say what this is. So hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. We're here today to talk about Goose. How are you, Neil?
I'm doing great. I didn't, go to any of these 5 shows. I slept in my own bed all weekend. I feel wonderful. You sound awful.
Thank you. Oh, wow, that's so kind of you to say.
I mean, tired. You sound tired. I'm not saying
5 shows in a row
your
is
voice is difficult to hear or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
five shows in a row is a lot. Looking forward to resting for 4 whole days until I see Goose again. Anyway,
are you going to Pittsburgh?
I'm going to Pittsburgh. I'm doing all the shows.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, we've got a great guest on today. Of course, we've got the one and only Bruce of Corner of Gray Street podcast. Hi, Bruce. How are you?
Welcome. Hey, guys. Neil and Ryan. Good to join you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on today. Good to have you on after we just had Nolan on last weekend. So treat to get both you guys on the same tour.
That's right. How amazing. It's truly a treat. So I appreciate you guys obviously allowing me to come on and join you.
Of course. Our pleasure. So let's dive right in here. This was an exciting weekend for you. Obviously, you're up in Jacksonville. So this is like pretty close to as close as Goose has ever come to playing a hometown show for you. But take me through, night 2, getting to the venue, pre-show vibes, where your seats were.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty easy jaunt on down, really. I mean, it's 45 minutes to an hour or so. Traffic wasn't too bad for a Saturday, so that was good. My buddy, his wife is pregnant, so she graciously DD'd for us down there, and we hit up the Old Coast Ales brewery, just about a mile or so away from the venue. It's just right there. It's really easy. Osprey tacos attached to it. It's fantastic. So we hit that up and headed to the parking lot. And as we did night 1, basically when we got in the venue, hit the bathroom, whatever, got a drink, sat down, within a minute, the lights went down. So we timed it out perfectly, and it made it seem like that I knew literally everything about Goose by telling them when they were coming on the stage and, hey, we need to go to their seats now. Okay, enough waiting for others. Let's go. Perfect timing.
Love it.
Nice.
Love it. Yeah, it was, pretty flawless entry again last night. I mean, the St. Augustine Amphitheater is immediately one of my favorite venues in the country. So really excited that we got 2 nights here this weekend. This is
blowing my mind that St. Augustine Amphitheater is like this legendary place. And before this weekend, knew nothing about it at all. And now I feel like I have to be there.
Yeah. Well, next time, Neil, Florida Goose.
We've been commenting on their Instagram, like me and a couple friends on like every tour announcement. Where's St. Augustine? You got to do St. Augustine. And I still, every time I say it, that it's one of my favorite venues, like Ryan just said, I'm always just kind of like, that's still so weird to say, like that this little, it's not too little, but little venue in St. Augustine is like one of my favorites of all the ones I've been to in the country. And it's still just special place.
Yeah. Yeah. And they come out, for the first set. And obviously, I don't think we hit 110 decibels again last night, but the roar of the crowd immediately is like above most shows right from the jump again. Peter made a comment again about how excited they were, and how great the energy felt. So that was a treat.
Sorry to pause you, but did you catch Rick's little bit before Meter Maid at all? I don't know if you can hear it in the audience, but it comes through on the boards really well.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, I don't know what they're doing in the middle. I meant to go back and look at the video, but listening to the boards, there's like a long pause before Meter Maid. And Rick just like goes up to the mic and he's like, we don't have to do anything, and you guys are lit. Which is like amazing. And the crowd is just like going nuts, right? And I'm assuming they were tuning up in the process.
There was also something about Roman like banter before Hunger Site about some.
Oh, I listened to that a couple times. I couldn't piece together what was going on. There was some laughter. I don't know. I think it's a backstage joke carried on to the stage.
Also just like current Goose nonsense jokes, like in the Halloween little behind the scenes teaser we got this afternoon, where it ends with Cotter going, "I'm just a beardless asshole."
Oh,
anyway,
man.
let's dive into the show here. Let's start first 3 songs. Throw it to you, Bruce. Turbulence, Draconian Meter Maid, Turn Clouds.
Yeah, I had honestly not noticed that Turbulence wasn't played because I did not have it in my when I texted Nolan like my opener pick and stuff. Because if I would have remembered that, I think that would have been an easy choice. Like I had, I got the night one opener and night one closer and night one encore all right with him, but this one I just completely forgot about. And so it was great. I mean, it's just got that, that build where you just the end is almost that as people who are not Goose fans say that they ripped off a fish divided sky. You get that, little ending that is just fantastic. And Rick was completely in control. Meter Maid that was probably the one that I wanted to see the most out of the Cotter tunes because they've let it breathe some. And this was, while not extremely long, I think we'll talk about a little bit. The last 3 or 4 minutes of it is
yes,
really, really good. And I think I texted you, Ryan, like, like you have to let it go. Like you can't, it wasn't that it wasn't necessarily ripcord. It was just like the death of the song.
You want that to keep going forever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just they were, they were kind of weaving in and out and just kind of, really locked in together. And it was that full band improv that, you guys obviously compliment all the time, but this year in particular has been very noticeable and to where you're just getting, I mean, just the feel that they were really locked in early on too. And that's when I turned to my buddy. I said, "Rick's got they've got the crowd in the palm of their hand." Because when they dropped it into that very quiet space, and everyone in the crowd also dropped down and worked with them, it was like, okay, they're in lockstep. This is that, this is when hey, everyone's in this together, and that was awesome. Turn Cloud's great. I mean, it's always good, and my buddy's wife, she wanted to see that. That was on her list of songs. So when we got it early, it's like, okay, now she's geared into.
Yeah, speaking of lists of songs, 6-way tie for a perfect score in Fantasy Goose last night. My first time ever getting.
Wow. Yeah, Fantasy Goose was something last night.
You know what, Neil? You're just salty because I have like a sizable lead on you. Anyway, this is a great opening to the show. We're not getting the 3-pack of openers here. I guess we are getting the 3-pack of openers here, but it's not just like 3 standard plays of songs. Like they're going out there on this Meter Maid, and that struck me like, oh, it's the second song of the show. We're already getting into some really great improv territory. This isn't going to be your average opening. So I was really excited about that. And yeah, really solid major key jam. But then when they take it down and Peter, Rick, and Trevor are just like in this dance for like 3 minutes, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, like what is going on right now? Like this is incredible. So if you look at this and you're like, oh, a 13-minute Draconian Meter Maid, I don't need to hear this. Yes, you do, because it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Meter Maid hasn't been around long enough to pick out like goat versions, but I think this one has to this one has to be it.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I couldn't believe it. So I didn't catch it when it was live.
And you heard me, and you saw my message.
And I heard you kind of freaking out about it. And then I went to listen. I was like, oh, this makes sense. This is really, really good stuff.
The hasty train was correct.
The hasty train was absolutely correct in this instance. Yes. In this instance. No, really, really good stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, next up, we've got Drive into Wild Night, which I did not expect the Wild Night there. Pretty cool segue. A little shorter drive than I maybe would have liked, but some great 2-guitar Goose action here. And Wild Night was fun. The crowd loved it. Nice little bust out. 98 shows. Last played at Asbury. So a lot of fun. What did you think of this, Bruce?
Yeah, it was cool. It was definitely not something I was expecting. Definitely expected Drive at some point. And was hoping for, a kind of a monster one, so to speak, especially in the first set. I was like, okay, I think after that Meter Maid, they got the Turn Clouds, not out of the way, but, kind of, all right, we're back in, we're going to rip. And then maybe it's time to settle into something a little long form, a little first set, treat for everybody. And I thought that was coming there, but really cool. Something that I'll probably, we'll probably, myself may never see again, just them throwing, that Van Morrison song there. And it was certainly cool. Some sing along for the crowd, I think, a little bit there, if you were familiar with it. And it worked. It fit perfectly. and flowed nicely, I guess, into that the Feel It Now. It wasn't necessarily a segue, but coming right after that, I thought that was it worked. It was very well placed.
100%. Neil?
Yeah, Wild Night historically means they're going to go ridiculously hard, right? They played it at some pretty excellent shows. If you think back to 9/17/20,
I was going to say that's Neil's about to talk about South Farms.
It's my opportunity to talk about 9/17/20, which I only bring up every fourth or fifth episode. Yeah. But this begins my favorite segment of Goose music ever, and they might have had that in their minds. Because
you mean South Farms? I was like, last night.
South Farms, yeah. No, not this. Not this. No. Hasty Train. Hold on.
The Hasty Train's not going.
I am not the one who jumps on the Hasty Train for it. Let's let this one settle first. But I mean, this is an excellent show. We haven't explicitly stated that yet. But man, wow, this is a great show. But it's not on the level of 9/17/20. At least we have to let it simmer for a bit. But in any case. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is about this cover, but it generally shows up in really great shows.
10/6/22.
So that part is excellent. And
yeah. And then Feel It Now, Western Sun that Neil thought was going to jam. And then
what the
Rockdale, which this Rockdale is awesome. They start playing Rockdale and I'm like, I look at the clock and I'm like, all right, we're probably gonna get like a, nice type 1 9 to 11 minute Rockdale, close the set, be great. And then 6 minutes in, they hit the first peak, kind of quiet a bit, and then Cotter picks up the pace, and suddenly they're just this is a hard left turn into a few minutes of some really cool jamming and just an amazing peak build to come back home there. But I love that, that we kind of got that unexpected bit of kind of out there improv in a slot where you really, I don't think, Bruce, I'm curious, and Neil, your thoughts on whether you were expecting this Rockdale to go somewhere or, it was just going to be kind of a exclamation point on the set. Bruce?
Yeah, at first I thought that Feel It Now may be extended and close the set. I was kind of looking at the timing and thinking of the night before, because I think night one had a longer set break. I was thinking, well, if they're going to take that long set break, they're going to be pushing it, blah, blah. Especially when they started Western Sun, I was like, well, that's not going to close, I don't think. What is happening here? And then that was really short. So Rockdale, same as you, Ryan. I thought it was going to be short. It's going to be typical. But when it was extending out and that, I was like, this is interesting. And I think that was when I was like, man, maybe they're going late tonight. They got approved for a later curfew, or they're going to be like, we're paying it, we don't care, or something that I don't know is going on. Because I was like, man, because if they take that same long set break, I don't know what's going to happen. They're going to eat into set 2 time here. But regardless, it was really, really cool. I think, kind of led by Peter, at least the space that they entered was grounded by Peter there with his kind of like an extension of Halloween-y sounds, I guess you could say.
I think it was the Moog.
That darker and the Moog, that's it. Always forget that what they are, the synth there. And it sounded awesome. And you've got Rick on top of that. And when I listened back, you could really hear Trevor on it, but I couldn't hear him as much in person. He was a little bit lower in the mix just for me. But yeah, just fantastic jam to close the set out. And I was not expecting 15, 16 minutes or whatever it was.
100%. Neil?
Yeah. Well, when they started playing, like you, Bruce, when they started playing Feel It Now, I was like, oh, so this is probably going to be the end of the set. Maybe we get lucky, we get something else. Then they started playing Western Sun, and I was like, oh, they're going to have to jam this because I don't know what else they're going to do here. The idea of playing another song didn't seem possible, really, to me.
Right.
But there it was. You get the Rockdale after. And then when they play the Rockdale, then I'm starting to realize what's happening, which is they are completely emptying the tank of everything they have on the board. When I was thinking about this show, I was thinking about, well, what could the physical makeup of the show be in terms of songs on the set list? And I kind of saw 2 paths. I saw one where we get Drive and Rockdale and Thatch. And I saw another where kind of the centerpiece of the show is Hunger Site and Dripfield, then maybe something else.
And some of us knew that they were going to do all of it.
Do all of them, which is kind of fascinating that is what ended up happening. And Rockdale is your first indication of that. And yes, like you said, a tasty Rockdale. to close the set. And I mean, they were earnestly going at the set. They wanted to play it all. They loved this crowd. Obviously, they're just gushing at the crowd the whole entire weekend. Even Rick has something to say about it, which is amazing. So yeah, that's what this Rockdale is. This Rockdale is all of those things.
Yeah,
there's so much wrapped up in this one song. But
and then I mean, at set break, I pretty much said like we might get more than 4 songs in the rest of the show, but I was pretty sure there was 100% chance of Hungersite, Thatch, Give It Time, and Dripfield. I thought the second set might just be like, Thatch, Give It Time, Hungersite, Dripfield, or something like that. But like, I was pretty certain that we were getting all 4 of those because, I mean, come on. And someone I was talking to was like, well, they've played that set before. And I was like, yeah. And there's a reason why they will do it again because
it's sick.
Fucking awesome. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, like that is a set that has happened and will happen again because it kicks ass. Bruce, really quick, how were you feeling at set break? What were you kind of expecting out of set 2?
Exactly what you said. I knew they were going to unleash those, and I could kind of get the feeling in Miami when neither Hungersite nor Dripfield were played or Thatch that those were being saved for St. Augustine. They weren't going to unload those probably at the Halloween show. So I got pretty excited when night 2 was wrapping up and Hungersite and Dripfield especially had not been played. But I was pretty certain those were coming. I had forgotten about Give It Now that night, or Feel It. I mean, Give It Time. Excuse me.
Feel It Time.
Feel It Time and Give It Now. But I had forgotten about it at the night, but I'd chosen it kind of that it was going to be played in my list like the day before, but forgot about it. So I was like, man, Fiction, they're going to play Factory Fiction. Like that's going to come. That might be the encore, but they're going Hungersite, Dripfield. Thatch is coming. We'll just see what happens. But yeah, set break was good. It was quick. Caught up with a few people. Met one of the WTED guys and another guy that was running one of the events down there yesterday that I didn't get to make it to, but ran into them, talked for a little bit, and we were ready to roll. I walked by you and tapped your shoulder. You were talking to, it was a line of people waiting to talk to Ryan. Set break. You had to take a number just to talk to Ryan. So I just kind of popped him on the shoulder and we were good to go.
We were ready to dive into this set because there's a lot to talk about in this set. Let's start with first 2 songs here. Hungersite, State of the Art. Neil, we'll start with you here because State of the Art's kind of your song.
It kind of is. Man, I love this song. This State of the Art, too, is exceptional. You get Jeb on guitar.
Hey, Neil, when was the first State of the Art?
Oh, it was 9/17/20. Funny that you asked that. Love that show. But that's what I was talking about earlier when I was saying they played Wild Night and AEIOU. Interesting. Maybe there was some memory there. I don't know. But yeah, no, this version is great. It might be the best version they've ever played. They're all pretty much the same. But this one had Guitar Jeb, and Guitar Jeb was doing actual really exciting things. So he was kind of doing like this like second bass line on the guitar, and it sounded really great. So that part is cool. If you want to go back and listen to that, that's in there. And then you get your typical fiery set opening Hungersite. Nothing crazy here. Just 17 minutes of fire to start a set, which is insane. I just love what this song does now. Like, it used to, for a long time, Hungersite was boring, and now I'm just so excited when they start to play it because you don't know what you're going to get. Sure. And if you get this is the baseline version here, 17 minutes of flames. So, I mean, you don't lose no matter what.
Well, and the cool thing about it is, we had 5 Hungersites in a row that were closing sets. And I think, that was kind of after, you just said it was kind of getting a little formulaic for a while. Like you were getting 17 or 18 minutes of just like straight ripping and then a few minutes of, some cool improv and then kind of fades away. And I think last night was great because you got the ripping and you got that little bit of improv, but it was only 16 minutes total. It didn't take up 23 minutes of the set. And so I think this is, if you're going to do Hungersite like this, I think way better to be around this length. But man, like Cotter plays his ass off in every Hungersite. And it's like, it was awesome. Like just peak after peak after peak. And then really cool little piano outro.
Oh yeah. I forgot to mention the piano. And the way that he reading about that today.
State of the art.
That piano outro is so awesome. it sounded like it was like maybe Factory Fiction for a second, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like they could play Factory Fiction, like segue right into it here. But yeah, really killer what they did at the end there. Pete was just feeling it.
Yeah,
just like I want to keep going, and it seemed like Rick was like trying to usher them into like AEIOU, and he's like, "Nah, man, I'm just noodling away,
hanging out." Bruce, what did you think of these two tunes?
I mean, if it's hard to script a better start to the set, I think, especially with the expectation that certain things are coming. And I agree, this is the way to play Hunger Site. Unless you're doing a Jam of the Year style 30-minute something, this is what you want. I think the last one they played, Winston-Salem, was like this, just pedal to the metal, high octane. But this one had that little bit of outro to it too, like you guys were talking about. And it was just a perfect flow into State of the Art. That was one I think I put on my list of songs, Ryan, in our group chat. You can check it. I put AEIOU in there. I was like, man, I got to hear this, because alongside with Neil, this is one of my, if not favorite cover, top 2 or 3 that they do. And it's just awesome. And it really hits live because it is loud and it is full. And Rick just, he crushes every part of it. But the flow into it kind of reminded me almost when Fish nails like a no quarter segue, like something that's drifting out and into no quarter. I saw it in Charleston 2019, and they did that, and it was just like a perfect thing that just flowed perfectly. Page was kind of gearing up for it, and this was the same way. And Peter set it up nicely. And I think I noticed the same thing Neil was talking about, that Rick was really kind of pushing Peter over to it, like, hey, remember? Like we got to go over here. We got to do this. And Peter was kind of head down, kind of looking up maybe a little bit. And eventually, they flowed right into it. But it was awesome. It was just kind of one of those things where you're like, man, these guys are just, I mean, they're on a different level.
Yeah. And then State of the Art wraps up. I think every single person in the venue knew exactly what was about to happen. There was no other song for that slot than Thatch. Super excited for this. Like never gets old. And this is this is the most Tweezer that this song has ever sounded. It's gotten close a couple of times, but Rick was like, he was so close to just playing the Tweezer riff for a while. But I was listening back this morning, and the way that the strings of Trevor's bass like kind of pop early on in the jam kind of blew my mind. Like it's like crystal clear sound, and you can hear like the string itself instead of just like the note he's playing. So I thought that was really, really cool. And yeah, this just like, it's pretty much just type 1 Thatch.
Ye old Thatch. This is like Thatch from the beginning of Thatch. I think back to the Ryman Thatch that just ripped. That's what this one does. It's like the old style.
Different though, because Ryman Thatch kind of goes pedal to the metal straight through. This one was just like hanging out. And I said in my review today, like I described it as like the band was letting the music dictate where the jam was going. They weren't, like sometimes they'll be more aggressive about it and they'll push the jam around. And it felt like they were just waiting for the jam to decide where it was going to go. And I thought that was really, really cool. And Neil, you got your, squishy synth chords that you love so much.
I do love those squishy synth chords.
Yeah. Bruce, what did
Unless
you think
I don't,
of that?
and then I really don't like them. But yeah.
Well, what can you do? The if the formula dictates for you guys, I like that the music would dictate for them, for the band on stage. That's good. And it was a nice space that they ended like that, or entered that Tweezer reprise, Tweezer, whatever you want to say, that Rick was kind of maybe closely resembling, potentially, whether it was intentional or not. It was really, really cool, and just something that was I think just a little different than other Thatches. Like it's kind of the same, but also kind of different, and that's what made it interesting. And then, of course, the peak at the end was just, we'll talk about it a little more in the drip field, but just yet again, where they just seem to be on another level again. And I don't know if it's just week after week that they're getting better, or month after month, but just things where you're just like, man, I just didn't, maybe I said I'm in person, but you just sometimes not forget, but you're like, holy shit, and the end of the patch was, no different. And of course, as that's winding up and ending, you're like looking at the time and it's like, okay, they've got about 20-25 minutes left in probably this set. It's time for the drip drop. Like, it's time to get into this thing. And we'll see if they have, and we saw on paper, they had 726, 726, whatever on there.
I didn't see that. Ooh.
Yeah. See, I knew it. I called that before the show. I was like, this is a 726 drip night. I haven't seen the set list.
And honestly, that's what I was more expecting to happen, because normally, like, I think a lot of times this year, they would have done that, because we've seen it and we've talked a lot about, like, they're planning out this set. They want to play all these songs. And especially, they haven't played 726 since Boston, which is kind of ridiculous. Like, why? What the fuck, Goose?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they play like a Rise like once every 2 years, and
right, like, and it's amazing.
Yeah, same thing.
Doesn't make any sense.
But I love the fact that they made the call to play a 23-minute drip field instead of a 726 and a 10-minute drip field. Because I mean, every big drip field this year has been like insane, and this one is also insane. I still think it's a tier below the Greek. For me, but I think I like this one more than Salt Shed.
I don't. But
Hasty Train.
Yeah, that is the Hasty Train. I don't agree with you in any way, shape, or form. But this set is like the emblematic Goose set, right? I was saying it yesterday. Like, if you want to introduce somebody to Goose, just go give them this show, and it's a really good primer for all things Goose. And then this show happens the day after,
right?
Or the day of. This is the show that I would probably put in front of somebody. It's got all of the requisite parts of what you would expect from a good Goose show. So, again, we often give them a hard time for set listing. Set listing's just like perfect in this one.
Yep.
And I think back to when they played Forest Hills, same kind of show, big deal. They were going to play the best possible show that they could put on the table. This versus that, this is the better show.
Oh, 100%.
By like leaps and bounds.
Do you know why, Neil?
Because they didn't open with Autumn Crossing. They played Hunger Site and State of the Art instead. But it's very, very similar sets, construction-wise. And that's the better 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Is one cover that really allows Rick to flex, and then Hunger Site. It's just so good the way they piece this together, and it's so much better than playing Traveler's Elneg to start off a set.
Yeah.
Banger City.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lucas. I mean, so this drip field jam is awesome. Peter hits the clav, which he doesn't do a ton here, and I mean, his clav work this tour has been so much less like clav shredding in a jam, and so much more like expressive textures and like adding so much more, which is amazing. Like, because one of the complaints that people had about Peter's clav playing, especially in like 2021, early 2022, is like he'd play it, and every time he played it, it was just like a bow, bow, just like the straight clav shredding, which is great.
Which I love, yes.
But clav tweets, but it doesn't really serve the improv as well. And part of his journey as a keyboard player, and part of, trying to just get better, he's just been opening up the possibilities of that instrument so much lately. And so the very like subtle clav as part of like kind of the whole early on in this jam is amazing. And then, they just kick it into gear, amazing peak, and then Shama. Because why not?
What is so bizarre?
It came out of nowhere.
like out of nowhere. When they started playing it, I was like, what the fuck is going? Like, why? Like, I mean, it's great. And I think the result is actually awesome. And it made sense in the moment. But man, was that a bizarre set list call. Possibly like the biggest Goose curveball we've gotten all year.
Yeah. Pretty funny.
It was. I laughed
Bruce,
about it. I mean, I love Shama. I would have taken 5 more minutes of drip, but that's fine. It's okay. Also would have sacrificed that 5 minutes to have Factory Fiction in the encore as opposed to Give It Time, but I love Give It Time. So it's all gravy. But you're not going to argue with Shama. That was hilarious and just a great, feel good into the set. And if you're going to, shove something in after Dripfield, why not that? Just why not that? And it just, every single person in the venue was, either singing along or at least dancing and was having a great time. So it was, if you're going to play a 23-minute Dripfield that was, had a lot of cool stuff in there, might as well throw, a nice little fun end to the set there. And I mean, seriously, like you almost couldn't like script it better. Like if you're talking about writing a set with maybe not every single rarity and all of this, that, and the other, you're going to throw in something like that just because it's freaking Goose. That's what they do.
Yep.
They keep you on your toes, and that was awesome.
Yeah, amazing. Any other thoughts? I mean, and Give It Time encore, perfect way to end it off. And
it was. Shout out to my mom.
Who?
What's that?
Shout out to my mom. This is her favorite song. Last night was her 20th and final Goose show this year, and so getting the Give It Time encore was great.
What a great kind of evolution that song has had too. Just as now like show closers at big venues and big shows.
Yeah.
And something that I was not expecting when it first debuted, and it has lived up to more expectation than I had for it, and it was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Yeah. The only thing left to say about Give It Time is I cannot wait to hear what the recorded version is going to sound like. It almost scares me a little bit, because what could that song be if recorded? It could be a hit. You don't know.
Could be.
I mean, it's got an incredibly infectious hook. And that's the only thing that I'm left wondering out about that. And, they play it in that spot too. They put like, the big tour ender encore, they know what that song is. They know what it's capable of.
Yep. Yep. Anyway, that brings us to the close of this Florida run. Thank you guys for following along with us. 5 pods in a row. Always fun. We now get a few days off before our next little run here, which is nice. So we'll be back on Friday afternoon at 3:30 Eastern to talk about Pittsburgh, before we head out to Shohio. Some people are saying that Pittsburgh is the Shohio of Pennsylvania. So
literally no one is saying
watch
that,
it. I said it. And
yeah,
someone's saying it. But Bruce, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure chatting Goose with you, and great to see you this weekend. There you go, Neil. That's good.
Thanks, Lucas, for that sentiment.
Yeah.
We needed that.
Everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week. We will see you on Friday. Peace.
Mushrooms.